They told me Christmas was off, too tight this year, we'll just stay in. So I spent the day totally alone. That night, my cousin posted a video, a full house, carving the turkey, family-only invitations. Everyone was there except me. I stayed quiet until Dad texted, "Can you handle the mortgage this month?" I replied, "Ask the family you chose." Then I cut off every payment and watched the fallout. Can you imagine a Christmas where your own family tells you they've canceled the holiday, only for you to discover they threw an elaborate, joyful party, and you were the only one not invited? The betrayal? It cut deeper than you can possibly imagine, and what happened next changed everything. My name is Brittany, I'm 28 years old, and for most of my life, I truly believed family was everything. Especially Christmas. It was sacred to us. Growing up in Willowbrook, Arizona, a small town where everyone knew everyone, I was the oldest of three. My parents, Michael and Laura, ingrained in us these strong values about family bonds and tradition. My brother, Josh, is 25, and my sister, Katie, is 22. We weren't wealthy, but we were happy. And Christmas? Oh, Christmas was pure magic. Mom would spend weeks decorating our modest 3-bedroom home, transforming it into a festive wonderland. Dad would drive us around town, hot chocolate in hand, to see all the lights. We had silly traditions, matching pajamas on Christmas Eve, taking turns opening one gift before bed. Those memories, they were the absolute foundation of my childhood happiness. I was always the academic one. After high school, I snagged a scholarship to ASU for computer science. College was tough, rewarding, and I worked my butt off in part-time jobs to cover what my scholarship didn't. I was determined to make something of myself. Even then, no matter how chaotic college life got, I came home for every single holiday, especially Christmas. Family remained my absolute priority. When I graduated with honors, I landed a dream job at TechFusion, a booming tech company in Seattle. The opportunity was too good to pass up, even if it meant moving over 1,000 miles from home. My starting salary was more than both my parents had ever made combined. I was proud, but a part of me really missed being close to them. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. Dad lost his job at the manufacturing plant where he'd worked for 20 years. He was 54, and finding comparable work was impossible. Mom worked part-time at a department store, but their combined income just wasn't enough to cover the mortgage on the house they'd been paying off for 18 years. When Dad called me, his voice choked with tears, terrified they'd lose the family home, I didn't even hesitate. "I'll help," I told him. "Just tell me what you need." That was the start of my financial support. At first, it was a few months of mortgage payments while Dad looked for work. Then, covering utility bills when winter hit. Soon, I was transferring $2,000 every single month just to keep them afloat. "It's just temporary," Dad would always say, "until I get back on my feet." And I never minded. My job was thriving. I'd been promoted twice. My salary allowed me a comfortable apartment in Seattle, and I could still support my family. Despite the distance, I called my parents every Sunday, no fail. This year, as Christmas approached, our calls became more frequent, all about holiday plans. I hadn't been home in 6 months. A major work project meant endless overtime and weekends. The thought of Christmas with my family was literally what kept me going through those brutal weeks. "I can't wait to see everyone," I told Mom in early December. "I've been putting aside money all year for gifts." "We've missed you, sweetie," she replied. "Katie keeps asking when you're coming home." I spent hours online, searching for perfect gifts. For Dad, a premium fishing gear set he'd been eyeing forever but would never buy himself. For Mom, a silver locket with pictures of all her children. For Josh, the latest gaming console he couldn't afford. For Katie, a new laptop to replace her dying one. I even bought special gifts for my aunts, uncles, and cousins, imagining our big Christmas Day gathering. The cost was significant, but I budgeted meticulously. After a year of financially supporting my family and barely taking vacation, I felt like I deserved to splurge. I booked my flight for December 23rd, planning to stay through New Year's Day. 10 glorious days with the people I loved most. My Seattle apartment is modern, but it lacks the warmth of home. I decorated a small artificial tree, hung a wreath, but it wasn't Mom's elaborate wonderland. I pushed myself at work, clearing my schedule for the holiday, often staying until 9 or 10 at night. My boss, Samantha, noticed. "You're really pushing yourself, Brittany," she said one evening. "Make sure you enjoy your time off. You've earned it." "I will," I promised. Christmas with family is worth every late night. As December really kicked in, I found myself daydreaming. Sledding with my siblings at Pinehurst Hill like we used to. Helping Mom bake gingerbread cookies, Dad pretending not to sneak bites of dough. Us all gathered around the fireplace, opening gifts, Christmas music playing softly. The anticipation fueled me. It had been a challenging year, and the weight of supporting my family sometimes felt so heavy. But the thought of their faces when they opened their gifts, the hugs, the laughter, it made everything worthwhile. Christmas would be my reward. 2 weeks before my flight, I shipped the carefully wrapped gifts to my parents' house. I texted Mom separately, asking her to hide them. "These are special," I wrote. "Can't wait to see everyone's reaction." That was the last normal conversation we had. The call came on a Wednesday evening, just 11 days before Christmas. I'd just gotten home, utterly exhausted after a 10-hour day of year-end reports. My phone rang with Mom's familiar ringtone, and I answered, smiling, expecting to discuss final plans. "Brittany, honey," her voice sounded strange, hesitant. "I need to talk to you about Christmas." Something in her tone made me sit down hard on my couch. "What about it? Is everything okay?" "Well, your father and I have been talking, and we think it might be better to skip the big celebration this year. Money's just too tight, and we're feeling overwhelmed." I frowned, confused. "Mom, I've been helping with bills all year. I'm happy to bring extra for the holidays." "It's not just that," she continued, her voice oddly distant. "We're just going to stay in this year. Nothing special. Maybe it's better if you save your vacation days for another time." This didn't make sense. Christmas was our most important tradition. We'd celebrated even during our toughest times growing up. "Mom, I already bought all the gifts. They're on their way, and my flight's booked for next week." She sighed. "The gifts are too much, Brittany. We can't match that kind of spending, and it makes everyone uncomfortable. I don't expect anything in return." I insisted, a knot forming in my stomach. "I just want to see everyone. We can do a simple celebration. I'll cook dinner myself." There was muffled conversation on her end. Then Dad's voice came on the line. "Princess," he said, using my childhood nickname, but his tone was firm. "We're just staying in this year. Nothing special. Just a quiet day for your mother and me." "But what about Josh and Katie? The cousins? We always spend Christmas together." "Everyone understands," he said, too firmly. "It's just 1 year. We'll do something next summer instead, when things aren't so hectic." I tried every approach. I offered to book a restaurant. I suggested just coming for 3 days. I even proposed a small gathering with just immediate family. Each suggestion was gently, but firmly, declined. "We're just staying in" became their repeated mantra. Nothing special this year. By the end of the call, I felt completely deflated, but I tried to be understanding. Times had been tough for them. Maybe the pressure of hosting Christmas was just too much. Still, it seemed extreme to cancel the entire celebration rather than scale it down. "I can still send the gifts, right?" I asked before hanging up. "If you want to," Mom replied, sounding oddly disinterested. "But don't expect anything elaborate in return." After the call, I sat on my couch, staring at my small Christmas tree. All the excitement I'd felt for weeks had evaporated, replaced by confusion and deep disappointment. I tried to be mature about it. My parents were under financial stress. I, of all people, understood that. The next day, I called the airline. My flight was canceled. No refund, just a credit. Another disappointment. What would I do with my 10 days of approved vacation now? I texted my siblings. Josh replied, "Yeah, tough year." Katie didn't respond at all, which was really unusual. I wondered if she was swamped with finals. Over the next few days, I tried to maintain some holiday connection. I suggested a group video call on Christmas morning. Mom said their internet had been spotty. I proposed sending a care package with ingredients for our traditional Christmas breakfast. Dad texted back that they were watching their sugar intake. Each rejection felt stranger than the last. My parents weren't particularly health conscious, and our rural Arizona town had perfectly reliable internet. Something felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint it. A week before Christmas, tracking showed my gifts delivered. I texted Mom to confirm. "Yes, got them," was her only reply. No excitement. No gratitude. No questions about what was inside. Just confirmation, like I'd sent a package of office supplies. I tried calling that evening, no answer. I left a cheerful voicemail expressing disappointment, but wishing them a peaceful holiday. Neither parent called back. 3 days before Christmas, Dad texted, "Nothing special happening here on Christmas Eve or day. Just staying in. Don't worry about calling. We might turn phones off to relax." That message felt like a punch to the stomach. Don't worry about calling on Christmas? In 28 years, I had never, not once, spent a Christmas without speaking to my family. Now, they were actively discouraging me from even making contact. As Christmas approached, their responses became even more distant. My brother stopped replying. Katie sent one message, "Super busy with friends, catch up after the holidays." My parents' communications grew briefer, less frequent. Despite all this, I kept sending cheerful messages. I still held on to hope that maybe on Christmas Day, they'd reach out, change their minds, or at least express some warmth. I tried to ignore the growing sense that something wasn't right. The gifts I'd shipped represented weeks of thought, a significant chunk of my savings. The thought that they might sit unopened or worse, be opened without care, was agonizing. But more than the money, it was the emotional investment. Each gift was my love for them. Christmas Eve. A heavy snow fell in Seattle, frosting my apartment windows. In years past, this was when I'd call my family, wish them a Merry Christmas Eve. This year, my calls went straight to voicemail. That night, I fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand, still hoping for a message that never came. I woke up on Christmas morning to the sound of silence. No excited calls from my sister, no cheerful group text. Just the hum of my building's heating and the muffled TV from a neighbor. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to conjure the holiday spirit. This would be my first Christmas alone. Even though I'd known for 2 weeks, the reality of the day hit me with an unexpected force. I checked my phone. Nothing. No messages, no missed calls, no social media notifications from family. The screen reflected back a stark emptiness that mirrored the ache in my chest. "Merry Christmas to me," I whispered to the empty room, forcing myself out of bed. I'd made half-hearted attempts to decorate. The small artificial tree stood in the corner, a few gifts beneath it from coworkers and my best friend, Amy, who lived in Boston. I'd hung lights, put a scented candle on my coffee table. These decorations, cheerful when I put them up, now felt like sad imitations of real holiday warmth. I shuffled to the kitchen and made coffee, trying to decide how to spend the day. I'd stupidly declined invitations from Seattle friends, believing until the last minute that my family might change their minds. Now I faced hours of solitude. After breakfast, I called my parents' home phone, then their cells. All went to voicemail. I left a bright, cheerful message, no mention of my hurt or confusion. "Hi, Mom and Dad. Just wanted to wish you both a very Merry Christmas. Hope you're having a peaceful day, just like you wanted. I love you both and miss you. The gifts are from me, of course. I hope you like them." My voice sounded artificial even to my own ears, but I maintained the facade of understanding. After all, they'd been clear about wanting a quiet holiday. Maybe their phones really were off for relaxation. I tried Josh, then Katie. Neither answered. I left similar upbeat messages, trying to hide my growing isolation. Communication attempts exhausted, I needed to occupy myself. I put on Christmas music and decided to make a small holiday meal. Not Mom's traditional turkey, but something special for myself. I had a small ham, potatoes, ingredients for a simple vegetable. As I chopped and stirred, I found myself talking out loud, narrating the cooking process like a holiday show host. It was better than silence. "Now we'll add a glaze to the ham, just brown sugar, a bit of mustard, and some spices." My voice echoed in the empty apartment. I swallowed hard against the lump forming in my throat. By 3 p.m., my meal was ready. I set my small dining table with my best dishes, lit a candle. I even put on a nice sweater. I refused to spend Christmas in pajamas. As I sat down to eat alone, I took a photo of my plate. I almost posted it on social media but stopped myself. I didn't want my family to see me alone if they were checking feeds. I didn't want their pity. The food was good, but tasted like nothing. Each bite was mechanical, sustenance without pleasure. I left half the meal uneaten, packing leftovers. Afterward, I opened the few gifts under my tree. A scarf from a coworker, a bottle of wine from my boss, and a carefully wrapped package from Amy. I saved Amy's for last, knowing she'd put thought into it. Inside was a beautiful photo frame, a picture of us at college graduation, arms around each other, huge grins. A note for your new place. Never forget who's always in your corner. Love you, friend. Tears sprang to my eyes. Amy and I had been instant friends, and despite the distance, we maintained our bond. She'd invited me to Boston, but last-minute airfare was insane. I texted her a photo of the frame. Love it. Love you. Merry Christmas. Her reply was instant. Merry Christmas. How are you holding up alone? I hesitated, then replied honestly. It's harder than I expected. No word from family yet. That's weird, she responded. Have you checked social media to see if they posted anything? I hadn't. I'd actively avoided social platforms all day, not wanting to see everyone else's perfect family gatherings. But Amy's suggestion planted a seed of curiosity. If my family truly was having a quiet, nothing special day, there would be no posts to see. I'll check later, I promised Amy. Watching Christmas movies now. I wasn't, but I needed time to decide if I really wanted to look. Part of me feared what I might find, though I couldn't articulate why. The afternoon crawled into evening. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing Seattle. In Arizona, it would be sunny, maybe 50 degrees. I imagined my childhood home, my parents sitting quietly, reading or watching TV. No decorations, no special meal, no celebration. I tried calling one more time around 6 p.m. Still no answer from anyone. The silence was becoming deafening. By 8 p.m., I had run out of ways to distract myself. I'd cleaned the kitchen, reorganized my bookshelf, wrapped myself in a blanket, and stared blankly at a Christmas movie on my laptop. The character's holiday joy felt like a mockery of my solitude. With nothing left to occupy my restless mind, I finally opened Instagram. I told myself I was just checking on friends, but Amy's suggestion lingered. What if my family had posted something today? I didn't have to look far. A notification popped up the moment I opened the app. Jackson Williams went live 30 minutes ago. Jackson was my cousin, Dad's sister's son. We grew up together, remained friendly. My thumb hovered over his profile picture. Hesitation mixed with a terrifying curiosity. If the family truly was having a quiet, scaled-back Christmas, there would be nothing notable. I tapped the screen. The video began playing, and my world collapsed. There it was, my childhood home. But nothing about it resembled the quiet, minimal Christmas my parents had described. The living room was transformed with elaborate decorations. A massive tree towered in the corner, surrounded by piles of brightly wrapped presents. Garlands draped the staircase banister. Festive centerpieces adorned every surface. But it wasn't just the decorations that sent a shock through my system. It was the people. The house was full, brimming with familiar faces. My brother, Josh, lounged on the couch in a new sweater I didn't recognize, laughing off camera. Katie sat cross-legged by the tree, sorting gift tags with our younger cousins. My aunts and uncles clustered in conversation, holding wine glasses, plates of appetizers. And there, in the center of it all, were my parents. Mom wore a beautiful red dress I'd never seen, her hair freshly styled. Dad stood beside her in a new button-down shirt, carving a massive turkey on the dining room table. Annual Williams Family Christmas Feast. Jackson narrated, panning across the room. Everyone's here for the big day. Everyone except me. I felt physically ill. A wave of nausea rose in my throat. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. But I couldn't stop watching. The camera moved to the mantel, where elegant Christmas cards were displayed. I froze the frame and zoomed in. They weren't cards. They were invitations. Gold script on cream paper read, "Williams Family Christmas Celebration. Family only. December 25th, 3 p.m. Family only." The words burned into my brain. I continued watching in detached horror as Jackson's video tour showed relative after relative, all gathered in the home where I'd been told nothing special was happening, where Christmas had supposedly been canceled due to tight finances, where I had been explicitly told not to come. The video moved to the gift exchange. I watched as my mother opened a small jewelry box and gasped in delight, holding up an expensive-looking diamond pendant. "Michael, it's beautiful," she exclaimed, kissing my father. The same father who had been accepting $2,000 from me monthly. The same mother who had said they couldn't afford Christmas. I recognized some of the wrapped packages under the tree as the ones I had sent. They sat unopened in the corner, clearly set aside and forgotten in the excitement. Then came my father's speech. He stood holding a glass of champagne, another expense they supposedly couldn't afford, and addressed the room. "I want to thank everyone for making it here today," he said, smiling broadly. Looking around, I see everyone who matters to us. Everyone who makes this family special. Everyone who matters. The words were a knife to my heart. "This year hasn't been easy," he continued. "But having all of you here makes everything worthwhile. To family." The room echoed, raising glasses. A family that apparently didn't include me. The video ended with scenes of dessert and more gifts. My gifts remained untouched in the corner, an afterthought. I replayed the video 3 times, capturing screenshots. Each image was more damning. The elaborate meal, the expensive new clothes, the professionally decorated house, the champagne, the diamond pendant. The physical symptoms of shock set in. My hands went cold and numb. My chest constricted. The room seemed to spin slightly. I had to put down the phone and focus on breathing. I ran to the bathroom and threw up the Christmas dinner I had prepared for myself. Kneeling on the cold tile floor, I finally allowed the tears to come. They weren't gentle tears of sadness, but harsh, body-racking sobs of betrayal. 3 years of financial support. 3 years of sacrificing my own savings. 3 years of believing I was an essential part of keeping my family afloat. And all of it, apparently, a lie. They hadn't canceled Christmas because they couldn't afford it. They had simply canceled Christmas with me. After the initial shock subsided, I returned to Instagram with methodical determination. I checked my brother's profile. He'd posted earlier, "Best Christmas ever with the fam." The photo showed him with our parents and sister, all in matching Christmas sweaters, smiling broadly. I checked Katie's stories. She documented the entire day, from breakfast to gift opening. "Annual Williams Christmas Magic," her caption read, as if nothing was different. I checked my Aunt Susan's profile. She'd shared photos going back weeks, showing preparations. "Can't wait for our family Christmas," a post from December 10th declared, right around the time my mother called to tell me the holiday was canceled. With shaking hands, I texted the screenshots to Amy. Her response was immediate. "What the actual hell? Call me now." I did. And the moment I heard her voice, I broke down again. "They lied to me." I sobbed. "They told me Christmas was canceled, that they were just staying in, that money was too tight. And they're all there without me." "Oh my God, Brittany," Amy whispered. I don't even have words." "I've been sending them money every month," I continued, the words pouring out between sobs. $2,000 to help with the mortgage, with bills. Dad lost his job and said they might lose the house. I've been helping them for 3 years, Amy. 3 years. And now they're buying diamond necklaces and throwing huge parties." The outrage in her voice mirrored the feeling building inside me. "I don't understand," I said, my voice small and broken. "What did I do wrong? Why wouldn't they want me there?" "You didn't do anything wrong," Amy said firmly. "This is about them, not you. This is exploitation, Brittany. They've been taking advantage of you." The word hit me hard. Exploitation? Was that what this was? Had my own family been using me? "I need to look at something," I said suddenly. "I'll call you back." I hung up and immediately opened my banking app. There it was, The recurring monthly transfer. $2,000 on the first of every month for the past 36 months. $72,000 total. I scrolled through my text history with my father. Every month, like clockwork, a thank you message after the transfer. This helps so much, princess. Don't know what we'd do without you. Just until things turn around. I searched my email for receipts of additional help. Extra money for car repairs, medical bills, property taxes, thousands more beyond the regular transfers. Money I could have saved for my own future, spent believing I was helping keep my family stable. The betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. This wasn't a one-time exclusion. This was a pattern of deception, designed to keep me sending money while keeping me at a distance. I called Amy back. I need to see how long this has been happening, I told her, my voice now eerily calm. The tears had stopped, replaced by a cold, focused anger. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to find out the truth, I replied. All of it. Over the next few hours, Amy stayed on the phone with me as I conducted a thorough investigation. The more I uncovered, the more extensive the betrayal appeared. I think I should check their other social media accounts, I told Amy, my voice hollow as initial shock gave way to methodical fact-finding. Do it, she encouraged. You deserve to know exactly what's been happening. I started with Facebook, which my parents used more frequently. My father's profile revealed numerous gatherings over the past year that I'd known nothing about. Family barbecues in the summer. A lavish Thanksgiving dinner. Even a vacation to San Diego in October that no one had mentioned to me. They told me they couldn't afford a vacation this year. I said to Amy, my voice rising with indignation. I offered to take them somewhere for their anniversary, but Mom said traveling was too expensive right now. While you were working overtime to send them money, Amy added, disgust evident in her tone. My mother's profile yielded even more damning evidence. Photos of shopping trips, expensive purchases. Check-ins at upscale restaurants. A post about their new entertainment system from just 2 months ago, complete with a picture of a massive flat-screen TV that must have cost at least $2,000. $2,000. The exact amount I sent them monthly for the mortgage. Amy, I think I've been funding their lifestyle, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. Not their necessities. I suspected something was off with them, Amy admitted quietly. Remember when I visited you in Arizona last year? Your mom was wearing a designer watch, but they were still accepting your money for emergencies. I did remember. I'd noticed the watch, but assumed it was a gift or a good knockoff. I hadn't wanted to believe my parents would spend frivolously while claiming financial hardship. Why didn't you say something? I asked, not accusingly, but genuinely curious. You were so convinced they needed your help, Amy replied gently. You spoke about it with such pride, being able to support them. I didn't have proof they were taking advantage, just a feeling. I didn't want to hurt you without being certain. The conversation made me reflect on other warning signs I'd missed or dismissed. The new car my father started driving last year, supposedly a great deal. The kitchen renovation my mother had casually mentioned as minor updates, but which I now saw from photos was a complete, high-end remodel. I returned to Instagram and scrolled further back through Jackson's profile. There, from 6 months ago, was a post that made my blood run cold. Another fantastic Williams family reunion. So great having everyone together. The photo showed my entire extended family gathered at a lakeside cabin. Everyone. Everyone except me. They've been excluding me from family gatherings for at least 6 months, I told Amy, my voice breaking again. Probably longer. But why, Amy? She asked, the question I couldn't answer. You've done nothing but support them. You're successful, generous, kind. What possible reason could they have for cutting you out? I had no explanation that made sense. I had always been the responsible one, the achiever, the child they bragged about. Or so I thought. I need to check something else, I said suddenly. Let me call you back. I hung up and immediately opened my email, searching for my most recent conversation with Katie. We discussed her visiting me in Seattle over spring break, me offering to pay for her flight. Her response now seemed telling, not sure if I can get away from family obligations that week. Maybe another time. Family obligations. The phrase took on a new, sinister meaning. I searched for emails from Josh, too. 3 invitations I'd sent for him to visit Seattle in the past year, all declined for work commitments, schedule conflicts, a vague, not a good time. Never a suggestion for an alternative date. My family hadn't just excluded me from this Christmas. They had been systematically cutting me out of their lives while continuing to accept my financial support. I called Amy back. "I'm looking at my financial statements from the past 3 years," I told her. "After the monthly transfers and the extra emergency help, I've given them nearly $80,000. Jesus Christ," Amy breathed. "That's a down payment on a house. That's a huge chunk of retirement savings." Meanwhile, I continued, pulling up property tax records online. There's no indication they were ever in danger of losing their house. The mortgage payments have been made consistently. No liens, no penalties, nothing to suggest financial distress. "They lied about the fundamental reason you were sending money," Amy stated flatly. "That's not just taking advantage, Brittany. That's fraud." The word hung between us, harsh but accurate. My own parents had defrauded me, their daughter, of tens of thousands of dollars, while systematically excluding me from family life. I kept making excuses for why I couldn't visit more often, I realized aloud. Work was too busy. Seattle weather made travel unpredictable. But they never invited me home, Amy. Not once in the last year did they actually ask me to visit. Because they didn't want you to see how they were living, Amy concluded. You might have noticed the disconnect between their claimed financial hardship and their actual lifestyle. I continued piecing together the timeline of deception. A knot of anger and hurt tightened in my chest. Every discovery added to the betrayal. Every realization made it clearer that this hadn't been a misunderstanding or a one-time exclusion. I should have told you about the gathering. I just went along with what Mom and Dad said. I didn't respond to any of these messages that night. Instead, I drafted emails to my landlord, utility companies, and other regular expenses, explaining that payments from my account might be attempted by unauthorized individuals and should be declined without verbal confirmation from me directly. I couldn't put it past my family to try accessing other accounts. The next morning, I had a voicemail from my mother that revealed more than she likely intended. "Brittany, you need to stop this tantrum immediately." Her voice was tight with anger rather than concern. "Your father and I have supported you your entire life, and this is how you repay us? By abandoning your family over a silly Christmas party? We have the mortgage payment due, the property taxes coming up, and we just put a deposit down on a St. Petersburg to Venice cruise for February. We can't afford all this without your help. Call me back immediately." A cruise. They had booked a cruise while telling me they couldn't afford Christmas. The final piece of confirmation I needed. Instead of calling my mother back, I made an appointment with a therapist specializing in family trauma. I knew I would need professional support to process the magnitude of this betrayal and to maintain the boundaries I was establishing. That afternoon, I received a call from an unexpected source, my father's sister, Aunt Sandra. Unlike the rest of the family, she'd always been somewhat of an outsider, often missing from gatherings. I had always felt a kinship with her, but hadn't spoken to her in months. "Brittany," she said when I answered, "I heard what happened. Your cousin Jackson told me you saw his Christmas video and that you weren't invited. I want you to know I had no idea they told you Christmas was canceled." Her words held a ring of truth that had been absent from my parents' explanations. "I've been sending them money for years, Aunt Sandra," I confessed. "They told me they were about to lose the house after Dad lost his job." There was a long pause before she replied. "Your father didn't lose his job 3 years ago, Brittany. He took early retirement with a pension package. They've never been in danger of losing the house." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Not just manipulation of the truth, but an outright fabrication of the very premise that had led me to provide financial support. Why would they lie about something so fundamental? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "Your parents have always lived beyond their means," Aunt Sandra explained gently. "Your success became their solution. They've been bragging to the family about their clever arrangement with you, your generosity funding their lifestyle while they maintain control over the family dynamic by keeping you at a distance so you can't see how they're using your money. And everyone just went along with this?" I asked, incredulous that not a single family member had reached out to warn me. "Most people didn't know the extent of it," she admitted. I only found out recently when your father got drunk at Thanksgiving and boasted about how they had trained you to send money without question. It made me sick, but I didn't have your contact information to warn you. Her honesty, painful as it was, provided the external validation I needed. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an overreaction on my part. This was deliberate exploitation by my parents, enabled by the silence of family members who either didn't know the full truth or chose not to interfere. Thank you for telling me, I said sincerely. It helps to know I'm not crazy for feeling betrayed. You're not crazy, Aunt Sandra assured me. And you're not alone. I've often been the family outcast myself for questioning your parents' behavior. If you need someone who understands, I'm here. Her support strengthened my resolve. After our call, I composed a formal email to my parents, copying my siblings. After discovering the extent of the deception regarding family finances and being deliberately excluded from family gatherings while continuing to provide financial support, I am terminating all financial assistance effective immediately. Any future communication should acknowledge the truth of what has occurred, rather than continuing the pattern of manipulation. I will be taking time to reassess our relationship and what form it may take going forward, if any. The email was met with a barrage of responses, from my mother's outrage, after all we've done for you, to my father's attempt at financial threats, you'll regret this when tax season comes. You've been claiming some of our expenses, to my brother's sudden concern for my mental health. You're not thinking clearly, sis. Maybe you should talk to someone. I forwarded these responses to my therapist as examples of the manipulation tactics I was facing. Her validation helped me stand firm as the pressure from my family intensified. 1 week after Christmas, my father sent a text that showed he still hadn't grasped the severity of the situation. Look, we're sorry if your feelings were hurt about Christmas, but we really need the January mortgage payment. Can you put aside this disagreement until we figure things out financially? My response was brief. The mortgage is your responsibility. My bank has been instructed to decline any attempted withdrawals from your accounts. It was the last direct communication I had with my father for months. As January began, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The family I thought I had was gone, revealed to be an illusion maintained as long as I provided financial benefit. But with that painful truth came freedom from exploitation and the opportunity to rebuild my life on honest foundations. The first month after cutting financial ties was surprisingly peaceful. After the initial flood of calls and messages, there was radio silence from my parents and brother. Only Katie sent an occasional text, usually just to check if I was still mad. I responded politely but maintained my distance, explaining that this wasn't about anger, but about fundamental trust and respect. I'm not mad, Katie, I wrote. I'm protecting myself from further exploitation. There is a difference. As February approached, I began hearing updates through Aunt Sandra, who had become an unexpected ally. According to her, my parents were experiencing the natural consequences of losing their daughter ATM. They missed the January mortgage payment. She told me during one of our weekly calls. Your father's been asking other family members for loans. Are people giving them money? I asked, concerned someone else might be manipulated. No, she said with a hint of satisfaction. Your courage in standing up to them exposed their pattern. Nobody wants to be the next Britney. While I took no pleasure in my parents' struggles, there was a certain justice in them finally facing the reality of their own financial choices. For too long, they had lived beyond their means with my unwitting support. Now, they would need to adjust. In my own life, I began experiencing the benefits of reclaiming my finances. For the first time in 3 years, I had an extra $2,000 each month to allocate toward my future, rather than my parents' fabricated emergencies. I increased my retirement contributions, began building an emergency fund of my own, and even started researching first-time homebuyer programs. It's amazing how much more secure I feel financially, I told Amy during one of our calls. I hadn't realized how much stress I was carrying, always worrying about their next crisis. That's because there was always a next crisis, Amy pointed out. By design. She was right. Looking back, there had always been some urgent need just after I'd recovered from the previous expense. A broken water heater, car repairs, medical bills, each crisis carefully timed to maximize my sense of obligation while preventing me from questioning the pattern. February brought another update from Aunt Sandra. My parents had canceled their cruise, unable to make the final payment. This news came with a screenshot of a social media post from my mother, lamenting that they had to cancel due to unexpected family issues. The subtle attempt to blame me might have hurt me months earlier, but now I recognized it as another manipulation tactic and let it go. Through weekly therapy sessions, I began to understand the dysfunctional dynamics that had allowed this situation to develop. I learned about financial abuse, typically discussed in romantic relationships, but equally applicable here. I explored my need for approval and tendency to overfunction as the responsible one. Most importantly, I began to recognize that I deserved relationships based on mutual respect, rather than exploitation. Your generosity isn't the problem, my therapist assured me. Your boundaries were. But you're fixing that now, and that's tremendous growth. By March, I had established new traditions and connections that began filling the void left by family estrangement. I joined a hiking group, accepted dinner invitations from coworkers I'd previously declined, and even started dating again after a 2-year hiatus. I met a kind environmental engineer named David, who valued honest communication above all else. I've been so focused on proving my worth through sacrifice, I told him on our 3rd date, having shared a simplified version of my family situation. I forgot that relationships should add to your life, not drain it. Healthy love multiplies resources, he agreed. It doesn't deplete them. As spring approached, I received the first communication from my family that wasn't centered around money or manipulation. It came from my brother Josh, a handwritten letter that arrived in early April. I've been thinking a lot about Christmas and everything that happened after, he wrote. At first, I was angry with you for cutting off Mom and Dad financially, but the more I've watched them scramble and blame everyone but themselves, the more I've realized you might have been right all along. They told us you couldn't come for Christmas because you were too busy with work and didn't want to be bothered with family stuff. We believed them because it was easier than questioning. I'm sorry for my part in hurting you. I should have reached out directly instead of accepting their version of reality. The letter continued with details of how my parents' financial situation had deteriorated. They had downsized to a smaller car. They were considering selling the house and moving to a condo. They had started arguing constantly about money, each blaming the other for spending habits that could no longer be sustained without my subsidies. I don't tell you this to make you feel guilty, Josh clarified toward the end. You have nothing to feel guilty about. I tell you so you know that your decision forced some necessary changes. Maybe in time they'll learn from this. Maybe not. Either way, I'd like to have a relationship with my sister again, on healthier terms. I cried after reading his letter, not from pain, but from the validation it provided. Then I called him, our first real conversation in nearly 4 months. I never wanted to hurt anyone, I told him after we'd exchanged awkward greetings. I just couldn't keep sacrificing myself for people who didn't even want me around. I know that now, he said quietly. And for what it's worth, I did want you around. I just didn't stand up to Mom and Dad when I should have. It wasn't complete healing, but it was a start. A small bridge being rebuilt between siblings who had been manipulated into distance by parents with ulterior motives. Katie followed with her own olive branch a few weeks later. A text message admitting she had known Christmas wasn't really canceled. I was selfish, she confessed. I went along with it because I didn't want to rock the boat. You deserved better from your little sister. These gestures from my siblings were meaningful steps toward potential reconciliation, but I maintained firmer boundaries than I had before. I agreed to monthly video calls with each of them, separate from any contact with our parents. I made it clear that I would not discuss my financial situation or decisions with them, nor would I entertain requests to resume supporting our parents. My relationship with Mom and Dad will develop on its own timeline, if at all, I explained to Katie. I'm not asking you to take sides, but I am asking you to respect my boundaries. As for my parents, their approach continued to reveal their true priorities. In May, after nearly 5 months of minimal contact, my father sent an email with the subject line, "Possible compromise." The body read, Your mother and I are willing to put the Christmas misunderstanding behind us. If you could consider resuming financial support at a reduced level, perhaps $1,000 monthly instead of $2. This would be tremendously helpful as we transition to our new budget. In exchange, we promise more transparent communication about family gatherings going forward. The offer contained no apology, no acknowledgement of the deliberate deception, and no recognition of the harm caused. It was purely transactional, treating our relationship as a business negotiation rather than a family bond in need of healing. I didn't respond. My mother tried a different approach, sending a Mother's Day card with a lengthy handwritten note expressing how much she missed her little girl and how families should stick together through misunderstandings. Again, no genuine acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just an attempt to minimize the betrayal as a simple miscommunication while appealing to family loyalty. I sent a polite thank you text for the card, but did not engage with the manipulation tactics embedded in her message. By summer, a full 6 months after the Christmas revelation, I had established a new normal that prioritized my well-being. My finances had never been healthier. I had put a down payment on a small condo in a neighborhood I loved. My relationship with David had deepened into something truly supportive and reciprocal. My friendships, especially with Amy, had flourished as I devoted more energy to people who genuinely valued my presence. Most importantly, I had developed a stronger sense of self-worth that wasn't tied to being needed or being the responsible provider. I learned that true generosity comes from abundance, not obligation, and that healthy relationships involve mutual giving rather than one-sided sacrifice. When Christmas approached again the following year, I felt a twinge of sadness for the family relationships I had lost, but no regret for the boundaries I had established. I created new traditions with chosen family, hosting a dinner for friends who couldn't travel home and volunteering at a local shelter on Christmas morning. The joy I found in these connections was authentic in a way my family relationships had not been for years. I did eventually reconnect with my parents, but on dramatically different terms. After nearly 18 months of limited contact, they reached out with what seemed to be genuine remorse, prompted in part by family therapy they had reluctantly begun at Aunt Sandra's insistence. Our relationship now is cautious but cordial. I visit occasionally, but maintain clear financial boundaries. No loans, no gifts of money, no discussions of their financial challenges. They have adjusted to their actual income level, selling the too-large family home and adopting a more modest lifestyle. The most valuable lesson from this painful chapter wasn't about money at all. It was about recognizing that family should be defined by mutual care, respect, and honesty, not by DNA or obligation. It was about learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to stop enabling harmful patterns, even when that choice brings short-term pain. And it was about discovering that my worth was never tied to what I could provide or sacrifice, but to who I am as a person, worthy of authentic connection. The Christmas that was canceled turned out to be the greatest gift I ever received. Not a celebration of family, but a revelation of truth that allowed me to reclaim my life and rebuild it on foundations of genuine love and respect. Music slowly swells. Have you ever had to create strong boundaries with family members? I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's an act of self-respect. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember that sometimes, the family we choose is more important than the family we're born into.